So until now, we only worked with raw values such as strings or number or booleans. But what if we don't know what values we want to construct an expression with? Well, we will need variables for that. So um, create a new file, call whatever you want. I'll call it example. Remember the .js extension. Press enter, and now you have a new file. By the way, you can create a new file by pressing right click on your mouse and new file, or by clicking on this icon right here uh, with a file and a plus. In this new file, we will do a new declaration, which is a let declaration and uses the let keyword. And what this let does is just telling to Node in this case, but in general to the computer in a JavaScript file, that whatever follows this let is just a name for a variable. So why do we need a name for a variable? Well, pretty much for same reason we need the name in the real world in order to call a person without ambiguity. So when I call a person in a certain context, as an example, if I call Michele in a context where the only person who is called Michele is, I don't know, my friend, then when I call Michele, I'm sure that only Michele will respond to that call. The same way, we need a name for a variable, so I just call it name just to be uh, sure that this is a name for a variable. And what this does is just let test the computer that the following is the name, and this equals a single equal here assigns a value to the variable. Since once when we declare a variable, it does not have any value by default. We have to define what value he has to have. Well, yeah, actually, we can declare a variable just like this, a let name, and we are telling now to JavaScript that there exists uh, something that is called name. But let's see what Node thinks that this name is by typing console dot log name. Let's try to run this code. Node example is the name of the file, so I'll type here example undefined. So we know undefined is the default value, and which is not really a useful value for us. So when declaring a variable, usually you want also to assign it some values. Now my var, the name, I'm accessing the same variable as before. I just changed the name, and now when I call my var in this environment, I'm sure that I'm indeed calling my var. What this code does is let, as we said before, just tells the computer that the following is the name of a variable. I'm telling which name I want. In this case, is my var, and then I'm telling to the computer I want to my var to hold this value. This in this case a number. So when the computer will later encounter the name my var, it will go search for it and see what value the variable holds and change its occurrence with the value. In this case, let my var equals 0 and then tells that my var has indeed the value 0. When he re-encounter my var, it will just change my var to 0. So this code is equal to the previous. Let's see if I change here to my var, save the file, and run it. We get 0, which is of course the same of just selecting 0 here. So we now know how to declare a variable and how to read the content of that value, of that variable, which is a value. Now with let, we can also change the content of a variable later in the code. So I'm able to do uh, my var. When you change a value, you don't need the let keyword. As we said before, let only is used for the variable declaration. Since we have already declared my var, we don't no more need let. We only need to access it. And what my var is doing now is telling uh, the computer, hey, I want this variable, so I know which variable I'm calling, and I want it to change its value to 2. So now when I run this code, the printed output is no more 0 because I have changed the value of my var later in the code, and we can actually see this in action. If I later change this value once again and I set it to 42, actually the semicolon goes after, and then I print the same thing, we will see that indeed we first get the 2 because this is the first call of my var, and my var here has the value of 2. Then once this is finished, the program goes a step further, and it it encounter the my var equals 42. So here we are successfully changing the value of my var to 42, and when it encountered this piece of code, the computer will substitute, will replace the myvar to the last value it has been holding. Therefore, is like doing this and this. All right. If we run this code now, we see the result is the same, uh, and we don't even need this because, of course, we have just hard coded the whole thing here, but we are treating with variables. And so by doing this, we only need to, if you notice it, the code was prac- the same, literally the same code. It just changed what was here, and it also changed the results. So my the variables are useful for this reason, to be changed with their values. Now there can be also situation when I want to use a variable, but I don't want it to change. Such as a reason could be I want to get a user input, and I don't know when I write my code, the user input what will be. Let me define a let user in user age. All right, and a user age is actually fixed until an age is passed, but we will assume it's fixed. Um, and I want it to be, I don't know, 18. All right. Now, when I print console log, it actually works as we said, as we saw before. Console log user age, and this will actually print 18, and we can also run it, but as we can see, it prints 18 because user age is now 18. What happens if, for whatever reason, a code, our code somewhere takes user age and and puts it to to hold the value of 2? Well, now our code will know that the user age is 2, even if that's false, because the user input was 18. So we can change this by promising our code that whenever I declare this variable, the value it holds will never change later. And we can do this by not declaring it with let, but with const. And what const does is pretty much the same of let, but it also adds this promise. And notice what happened here is, so if I run this code, it just runs like a normal let, and it prints the 18 here. You can also see if I change this to let and I don't change anything else, the program does the same indeed. But if with const, if I now try to set the user age to 2 as we did before, actually I have to use the equal, thank you. All right, if we try to change, we will get an error. Node will say to us, hey, you promised me this value would have never changed and you're changing it here. So this is a security. For security, you can use const to be sure a value will not change. Actually, there are also some built-in values, constant as an example. There is also, let me copy this, Ctrl V, an object in JavaScript built-in, which is math with the capital M, which contains some constants, the e, the logarithm of 10 pi, and we can see that this is a constant also by how we see is it color, right? This is a blue. Well, if I declare something with LED, it is just uh, light blue. And you can see here pi is indeed blue. So we know, thanks to Visual Studio, that this is a constant. And what happened when I run this code now is that it prints 18, but it also prints the value of pi. So just to let you know that there are constants, and I cannot change the value of pi because it is of course a constant. I cannot say that Math.PI is is 3 because yeah, that would not be the best. And when I run this, since this is built in math, I have not changed this because it is a constant, and the value of Math.PI is still 3.14, etc. So constants are really a useful tool to be sure we are working with the correct values. So in this video we learned how to declare variables using let and const, and we saw the difference between using those two keywords. If you learned something from this video, please like it and also subscribe to the channel so that you can keep learning with me. Thank you for your time. We'll see you in another video. Bye bye.